Hey everybody, we're going to work on something pretty cool today. We're going to be working on a picture that's going to make it kind of look like there's some fish in a pond, okay? And it's a really cool kind of trick. It doesn't take a lot of, intense studying to be able to do something like this. This is kind of a cool project, a cool lesson. I think you'll have some fun with it. So I want you to think of in your head what curly cues or spirals kind of look like, okay? And anyone can make this kind of line. If I'm drawing a line and I put a little loop in it, and I draw a line and I put a little loop in it, we're going to use some of those loops to help us make our fish for our pond. We're going to have a big pond. The whole sheet of paper is going to be kind of a pond, okay? So keep that in mind, keep that in the back of your head as we're working. So the first thing I want to do today is I want to work big. I want to fill my paper. When you fill up a sheet of paper with your picture, that picture becomes so much more interesting. If I do it really tiny in the middle of my paper and I end up with all of this empty space around it, that's not as interesting for people who are looking at the picture. So you always want to make sure you are trying to fill the space so that even the space that does not have anything in it, is the shape of that is even interesting. And that's when you're dealing with the two big words, negative and positive shape and space. You want both of those things to be interesting in a picture. You want the positive shapes that has something there to be interesting. But you also want that space around that object to also have an interesting shape or look to it. So we're trying to fill the space today. That's the first thing to know. Second thing is we're going to be using these loops, kind of almost like making ovals on our piece of paper. It's a very simple kind of technique, so I don't want you to get really into it thinking to yourself, oh, am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? Because there's really no right or wrong way to do this, okay? And that's what's so fun about it, is I can just do it and have fun with it. So the first thing I want to do is I want to work really big, and I want the loops that I'm going to be making to work really big. So when I'm doing that, whenever I do that, I want the motion of my arm and hand to be kind of working together. It's almost like I'm not moving my wrist too much. I'm more of moving, my movement is happening more from the elbow, okay? If I'm doing this, I'm going to end up with some tiny shapes. But if I'm moving my whole arm, that whole arm is going to help me work big instead of tiny, okay? So keep that in mind. You'll see what I'm talking about. All right, so I'm going to come up here. I'm going to find a starting spot. I like to start at the top. I'm going to work my way all the way to the bottom and way back up to the top with these loops. And it's all going to be one line. This is all going to be made with one line. You get that? Okay. So I'm starting up here. I draw a little bit. I make a big loop. Look at what my arm is doing. The wrist is not doing as much, is it? Okay? Look at what I got. I got only 4 big loops there. Okay, that's important. I didn't have like 20 teeny tiny loops. That's going to make my job harder if I do that. Now here's the fun thing. Each one of these 4 loops is going to become a fish. And it's going to look like I'm looking down on top of a pond, like maybe a koi pond or a fish pond that some people, and you might even have a fish pond in your yard. But if you've ever been to like a koi pond and you're looking down on top of it, that's kind of what I'm thinking about when I'm making this picture, okay? So the first thing I want to do, I'm going to make the eyes in each one of my fishes. And each loop is a fish, okay? So I need 2 eyes, and I'm going to make those eyes with a circle and a dot. Really simple. Circle and a dot, circle and a dot. I need 2 of them in each fish. Circle and a dot. This is good to do with a marker or a crayon. Okay? Then I'm going to work on his tail fin. Okay, the tail fin. And do you see where this loop went like this? This space right here is going to be his tail fin. That sounds weird, but you'll get it if you watch. Okay? So right in this space right here, I'm going to make a zigzag. That's going to be his tail. Right here too. Zigzag. There's his tail. Here's another fish. Zigzag right here. And this big fish here. He's going to have a zigzag for his tail. Okay? So there's the tail. There's the fish. Now our fishes are going to have pectoral fins. Okay? They're coming off the sides. Like that. And he's swimming. It's kind of weird. Anyway, so we're going to give each one of our fish fins. And I want you to think of another very simple shape, the triangle. Okay? So I'm going to put a fin here on that side, here on that side. I'm going to put a fin on this guy and a fin over here. I'm going to put a fin over here and a fin over here. One over here, one over here. Do you see my fish now? And they're all sort of coming together into this pond, right? They're also coming together. Maybe someone's feeding them and they're all trying to get fed at the same time. I can't see their mouth because I'm looking down on top of them and the mouth would be kind of up underneath their head. So I don't see their mouth, okay? If you want to put in a dorsal fin, the dorsal fin runs along the back. You could do that with a very skinny, simple oval. You do not have to do this. Okay, that could be his dorsal fin. If you want to add scales, that's kind of cool too. And you can just add some letter C's or some letter U's to do this. I wouldn't add a ton of these because you're just trying to create the feeling, the basic feeling of there possibly being some scales on the fish. I'm not trying to get every single detail, okay? Every single tiny scale. I would be here all day, wouldn't I? If you want to add more texture to the tails, you could do that easily with just a few lines that go like this. Again, you don't have to do that part. If you want to just get straight into coloring, you can do that too. So each fish should get its own color. Okay, each fish should be its own color. All of this around the fish is the pond. Okay? You could even make this out here the pond. So all of that sheet of paper needs color. Okay? If I'm coloring a fish in, maybe one of my fish is going to be orange. I could color my fish in, and you can make your fish more than one color. Maybe your fish is multiple colors, because koi fish don't always just have to be orange. They come in a lot of different colors, okay? That's what's one of my favorite things about koi fish is they're not always just plain one color. They could be multiple colors. So keep that in mind. But when you're coloring that water, you want to make sure all of this water goes up to the edge of the paper, and I'm taking my time to color around my fish. Okay? This line that goes in between the fish, that kind of creates the image of the ripples in the water that those fish might be making as they're swimming and getting close to each other. Like I said, maybe it's feeding time. We're about to feed them. You could even sprinkle some little food in there. Maybe add some little specks of food that they're about to eat. Okay? Just a few dots here and there. So keep that in mind. while you're working, that we're trying, again, to fill the space. It's much more, all of these empty spaces around my fish are much more interesting when I make those fish big, when I fill my space with those fish, okay? If the objects are big and interesting, then the space around them will also be interesting. And that makes the whole picture more interesting for everybody looking at it.